These are like your common everyday paper wasp, except on steroids. Welcome back to Bug of the Week Part 25, brought to you by Lil Dudes Insect Academy. I'm super excited for this episode, but before we get into it, I'd like you to go down and drop a like, subscribe, and maybe comment on this video. Let me know if you'd like me to cover any specific bug in the future. Also, go down to our playlist to enjoy all the other episodes of Bug of the Week, but this is my third installment of this mini-series where I will be covering the most painful of insect stings as we walk through the Schmidt Pain Index. And if you haven't watched the other two episodes on the velvet ant and then the tarantula hawk wasp, go back, check those out first. But in case you haven't watched those ones yet, we are going through the Schmidt Pain Index, and if you aren't aware already, a guy named Justin Schmidt went through a bunch of insect stings and rated them from least painful to most painful. So he was stung by hundreds of insects when it was all said and done, but he created this index that tells us, from his experience, what insects were the least and most painful out of all of them. So, with that said, next up is this guy, the northern warrior wasp. Meet Sinoica septentrionalis, native to the regions from northern South America all the way up to Central America, comes the northern warrior wasp, number 2 on the sting index. Being within the tribe of Epiponinae makes these guys a kind of paper wasp as they construct intricate paper nests, which I'll get to in just a minute. But first, as usual, let's go over the anatomy of these wasps. Individuals of this species are typically very dark bluish in coloration, oftentimes having a bit of a metallic hint to them. They have a set of agile wings, which are often a dark cobalt blue color, which are actually pretty large considering that these are some of the largest species of paper wasps out there. They have long, pointy, sleek gasters, which house their personal and social stomachs, reproductive organs, as well as the venom glands for their powerful sting, and more on that in a minute. They also have very large heads, which boast a powerful set of mandibles and compound eyes, as well as a short set of antennae, which they use in the prolific detection of pheromones. Now, the warrior wasp is something called eusocial, meaning they have a colony structure similar to that of ants and honeybees. A colony can sometimes consist of multiple queens and dozens of workers, who are all her female offspring. The queen or queens put off a pheromone which dampens the ability for the workers to reproduce, as, like I said, they are all female. Now, colonies themselves of warrior wasps reproduce very similarly to that of the honeybee colony, as they also form swarms. When a colony grows to an unsustainable size, the queen leaves with a group of workers starting a new colony, and the existing colony instantly makes a new queen, and the cycle starts all over again. So essentially, a queen with workers leave, they start a new colony, and then the existing colony creates a new queen. Now there are 2 separate colonies, and they just do that over and over again forever. Now, as I mentioned previously, these wasps construct their own nests out of natural materials. Some nests have been observed at over 20 feet in the canopy. These nests often have 2 holes, one for exiting and one for entering. The internal structure of a hive is a complex interweaving of catacombs, which the wasps have completely made from scratch, chewing up plant fibers and bark to extrude in this fashion. These wasps are also caterpillar hunting specialists. Workers will attack a caterpillar, sting it, munch it up into a meatball using their strong mandibles, and they don't eat this. They actually go back to the nest and feed this caterpillar meatball to their young brood. As for the adults themselves, they just feed on flower nectar. Now finally, the time you've all been waiting for, the sting. Now, being within a colony, these wasps communicate with each other in a lightning-fast manner, meaning if you disturb the colony, you might not just have one coming after you. You could very well have a little swarm of wasps coming after you. For that reason, these wasps can actually be fairly dangerous, as they have been seen to be pretty defensive. Now, that being said, unprovoked attacks from these wasps do not happen. They're non-existent, especially given the fact that they nest so high up in the trees. It just doesn't really happen unless you step on an individual. Now, if a sting does happen, it is pretty gnarly. A quote from Dr. Justin Schmidt says this: "Torture. You're chained in the flow of an active volcano. Why did I start this list?" I think that probably describes it best. Alright, with that, I hope you all enjoyed this episode. This wasp is super interesting. There isn't actually a whole lot of information out there on them yet. I believe the genus was first described in the 70s, so they're fairly new to science, so there's not a whole lot of information out there, so I kind of provided everything I could find. But they're really interesting nonetheless, and apparently they boast quite a painful sting. So if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like, subscribe. Stay tuned for next episode where we are going to cover the number 1 most painful sting of an insect. That'll be next week. Super excited for that one. So with that being said, I will see you all next week. But until then, keep on bugging.